Okay, great. Great to see you guys all on this panel, and happy to see my very good friends. So from Hong Kong and from San Francisco, but actually based in Thailand at this moment. So yeah, let me introduce you all, and then I will pass the word to Max, who will moderate this session. And so we have here Max Tech, who is the chairman and founder of Netrove Ventures. So he will moderate the session. So we have Shawn Dehpanah, who is executive vice president of Plug and Play Tech Center, so which is one of the largest corporate accelerators and investment funds in the world. So actually, with headquarters in San Francisco. So we have also Dr.Kid, who is the CEO and founder of RISE Corporate Innovation Powerhouse. And we have Kingsley Kobayashi, who is the founder and CEO of FGC Group.
Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you all.
Yeah, and our topic is corporate innovation, digitalization, and investments. So Max, I'm passing the word to you.
Thank you very much, Ivan. And yes, of course, I will take care of these four gentlemen, three including myself, four. Yeah. So good afternoon to everybody who's joining us again today. Good evening if you're from 12 hours or more behind us.
Good, Max. How are you?
Good morning to some of you who are in Europe. So yes, we've got three great speakers today to talk about corporate innovation, digitalization, and investments. Before I start, maybe I'll just get each of you to quickly just spend a minute introducing yourself. You mind, guys?
Certainly. Where do you want to start? Who do you want to start, sir?
Oh, just Shawn, you can start.
Good. Thank you very much for inviting me to this great panel today. My name is Shawn Dehpanah. I'm the Executive Vice President at Plug and Play and Head of Corporate Innovations for APAC. I basically come from Silicon Valley. I'm based out of Silicon Valley, but since the pandemic has started, I've now been here in Thailand for over 2.5 months. I couldn't have thought of a better place to get quarantined, but certainly it's been great timing for me to be with the office that we launched in Thailand. But the background of mine is I am basically a technologist. I come from 30, almost 40 years of being involved in technology at Silicon Valley. I was fed and bred in Silicon Valley through engineering background, and then worked with a multitude of my own startup companies, as well as engaged with a lot of corporations, Fortune 500, working as in roles of business development, marketing, and strategist. And now I've been involved with Plug and Play for the past 3 years to lead their corporate innovation strategy and expansion plan throughout the Asia Pacific.
Awesome. How about you, Kid?
Right, yeah, my name is Kid Pacharianon, so medical doctor turned entrepreneur. Yeah, so right now I'm running RISE, which is, we call ourselves Corporate Innovation Powerhouse. So the way that we work is that we help the corporate and the government to innovate faster. Our mission is to drive 1% of GDP for Thailand and the whole Southeast Asia. So that's our goal. Yeah, we've been expanding very fast. Yeah, to Singapore, Malaysia, and this year Indonesia. So far, we've been serving 400 corporates across the region. Yeah, and that's super fun. So and glad to meet my family affairs here.
Absolutely. Well, I'll come back to that 1% GDP Southeast Asia thing later on. That's a very interesting target. But moving on quickly to you, Kingsley. A quick introduction.
Good day, gentlemen. My name is Kingsley Kobayashi. I've been in Asia for about 30 years. I'm based in Tokyo, Japan. And I'm into commercial real estate. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm into pharmaceuticals. I'm into clean energy. And 5-6 years ago, me and my business partner set up FGC and went into blockchain. and we've been in the blockchain space since then. We are not into tech power in the financial part, helping to raise funds, structuring, marketing, and everything to do with blockchain. And we have offices in about 5 countries around the world.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Currently, I'm quarantined in Lagos.
Okay, so you are not home where you should be.
Yes.
Shawn, you're not home where you should be as well.
No, sir.
Well, it's a good place to be quarantining. Anywhere is good as long as you're safe and healthy.
The good thing is, this time I came with my family, so we are all together.
Fantastic. Okay. Yes. Well, just a quick introduction about myself. So I'm a Malaysian by origin, but I left the country some 30-something years ago and spent most of my time in Europe in the younger days, and then in Greater China for the last 30-something, 25, 30 years. So I am old. And I've been through investment banking, venture capital, and currently dabbling in all three, including crowdfunding, equity crowdfunding. Been doing that for the last 25, 30 years. So look at the whole Asia region with a fairly heavy focus on Southeast Asia at the moment because of a lot of things going on in Southeast Asia in the last 5 years particularly. So in many ways, what I do with the companies that we invest in or we fund actually probably exists in your ecosystem as well. So it'll be an interesting conversation for today. So getting on quickly to the topic for today, corporate innovation. Let's start with that. What does that mean to each of you? Maybe we start with you, Kingsley.
Corporate innovation can be, in my own case, can be defined as the process where companies bring out new initiative to attract startup companies, to attract, expand their scope in other aspects of what they know. But there is no innovation without digitalization. I like to put that very clear. You have to have the data, which most developing countries don't have, to actually make use of startups and things like that. So we'll be talking about that much later.
Okay. Well, before I move to you, Shawn, I know you've got a great definition of corporate innovation. This is what I got from Google, yeah? It says, innovation, not corporate innovation. Innovation is a new idea, creative thoughts, new imaginations in the form of device or methods.
Yeah, disruptive, yeah.
How do we slot this into corporate innovation, Shawn?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, I think the interpretation can be varied depending on how you define it. But if you peel it like an onion, at the core of it is the same. It's really about the engagement of the new innovative and technologies across different mediums to how you basically be able to optimize your business current model through reduction of cost and improving the profitability. And this to me can be interpreted as far as some of these ideas could be very disruptive, like what Uber did and what Airbnb did to the industries. And some of them are not exactly about that much of a disruption. It's more about how do you just basically engage these disruptive and new technologies in the business units of the corporations to basically really optimize the current the way of doing business. That's how I would define the basically innovation in corporations.
Awesome. Kid, how would you define corporate innovation?
Yeah, before we dive into that, I mean, like I totally agree with Kingsley and John. I mean, like everything that both the gentlemen said is resonate to me. Yeah, I just want to emphasize a little bit why corporate innovation is matter in this region, Asia, right, or pretty much Southeast Asia that we are living. Yeah, because I think what we can see the difference, like in the U.S. or in other part of the world, is that there's so many unicorn, right? So, but in this region, we don't have FANG yet, right? So Facebook, like Amazon, like Google or Alibaba, right? So so it's hard to drive economy like without like those unicorn. But in the reality is that I believe that our economy and Southeast Asia economy is driven by like government and also the big company, like the big corporate. Yeah, these two people, like the big giant, are the one who really drive economy. So that's why in the beginning, when I think, oh, what I should do to achieve our goal, which is the 1% of GDP that you asked early on, I think to help the corporate and the government to disrupt themselves, this is the way to go. That's why I started interest in corporate innovation, and yeah, and it's and now it's becoming like a hottest trend in the region.
I must say, you know, when I was asked to moderate this passion, I asked at this session, I asked a few of my industry friends out there, what do they understand as corporate innovation? And one of them gave me a funny answer, and I'd like to hear the response from you guys. It's basically it says it's McKinsey and Bain consultant with a little bit more action. How do you respond to that?
I think it is correct. It's about putting your ideas into action, because the ideas can be there, the technology can be there, and if the management or any person is not willing to go further to put it into realization, it will never work. You just have to be able to put it into realization, make sure it's working.
Shawn, would you agree with that? McKinsey plus some action.
Absolutely, the wonderful definition from the consulting firms. It's always been, of course, about the historical data, how much you can collect information can shape the future. But really, the definitions, how you define or separate yourself is by the execution. And then basically, if you cannot execute on those ideas of innovative ideas, and how is that going to move the needle within this corporate, infrastructures, then that doesn't mean anything. I mean, it's all about executions, really, of the corporate innovation.
So you would tweak that to say McKinsey plus a lot of execution.
It's all about line of sight into future and execution. That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Kid, would you agree with that?
No, that's actually one of the culture here at RISE as well, because we say we don't deliver PowerPoint at the end of the program. Yeah, we deliver something tangible, and that's one of the key. Another thing that I'd like to point out, it's not about those comparing to the consultant, but it also, we're focusing on collaboration. Yeah, I think collaboration is a key piece, because if you're looking at the setting of the corporate and the government, like hierarchy, politics, those kind of things, right? That's a blockage for innovation. On the other hand, we have startup who want to move fast, who want to gain market share. These normally these two people, they have different culture, different mindset. Yeah, sure. and how we as a corporate innovation like firm, be able to helping them to collaborate, not to compete or not to fight along the way. Yeah, but that's also should be one of the unique things about corporate innovation.
Okay, let's drill a little bit deeper on this corporate innovation thing. Again, I was told that there are different types or different models of how corporate innovation is implemented. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Kid?
Yeah, I mean, like for us, I mean, like we do like a couple of things, right? So one is corporate innovation, like the Accelerator. Yeah, another which is like we sourcing the startup globally, to help the corporate improve their bottom line and building the new stuff. Yeah, but apart from that, we also think, oh, this might not be enough, like working with the startup, because on the other hand, the corporate also need to like inventing new things by their own people. So we have the terms we call intrapreneur. Not only entrepreneur that we're going to work with, but intrapreneur, the people inside the big corporate, that be able to transform, and build a new stuff, for their company. So that one, we call like intrapreneur university. So we having university to teach corporate people, to turn to become entrepreneur. So that's the second piece that we think is also important, and it's another form of corporate innovation, apart from Accelerator, apart from investment, Yeah, and the last thing, yeah, we see ourselves to building the ecosystem. How we gonna build ecosystem like of innovator,
Right.
corporate innovator around the world, right? So we also having the conference that focusing purely on that, and the uniqueness of the conference, our conference is hands-on. Yeah, so meaning that everything is hands-on. So you come and then you experiment it yourself. Yeah, so that's the things that we see how to building the ecosystem of corporate innovation in Southeast
Okay.
Asia.
Shawn, so Kun Kid talks about corporate innovation seemingly straddling both sides of the ecosystem, startup on one hand and the bigger corporates on the other hand. Do you see this the same way?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I totally agree what Kit just mentioned about the corporate innovation. At Plug and Play, we created this model of corporate innovation about 8 years ago. And we expanded the model right now with over 400 plus corporations as a partner across 32 cities in the world. We engage and we look at around 20,000 plus startups in about 16 plus vertical industries that we focus on. We basically, from core competency standpoint of view, the reason that startups join our ecosystem because this is a platform for them to get the visibility into validation of their technologies, to be able to engage with corporations, decision makers, and also to be able to raise capital quickly through that engagement and to basically have a line of sight into all the other competing technologies. For corporate partners, obviously, to have a vision of the future of what's coming down the pipe and what's going to basically has been able to see the disruption has happened multiple times in different industries, they need to have that visibility right on because otherwise you will not basically be disrupted from sometimes your own industry, so you'll be basically disrupted from your parallel industries primarily. Yeah.
Okay,
so
absolutely. Kingsley, do you think that the corporate innovation, the McKinsey solution that we talked about just now, in some ways, is really available to the startup market, and it's not just a luxury for the bigger corporation?
No, I don't think it's a luxury to the bigger corporation because when you look at every startup, every big corporation out there, they also have startup companies. And what blockchain has done is blockchain is able to raise funds for these startups who have ideas or have projects that they have to put out there. And when they put out there, they are able to raise money through the blockchain system. They are able to raise money through big corporations. And another big thing is about marrying projects. People never talk about marrying projects. Okay, this guy have the tech, this guy have the marketing ability, this guy have the fund. So why don't you marry these three projects together and make sure they succeed? As long as you have the history, you have the data, because data is very important when it comes to this. People don't have the data, and most Asia countries don't have data. Japan, Hong Kong, Malaysia, maybe they do, but the other smaller countries who depend more on SMEs, 70% of their companies don't have it. So reaching out to these people and bringing them in to join big corporations will go a long way to help them grow. Because if they don't grow, the next generation will suffer because when these old corporations will start dying away, they will suffer because there's nothing for them to go back to.
Absolutely. Okay. Back to you, Kun Kid. Give us some example of a startup, because I think for bigger corporation, it becomes a lot easier to people to understand what corporate innovation means to them and how it is a necessity for them to continue to pivot and stay relevant and stay large. But for startups, what can you do for startups in terms of corporate innovation?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like as Shawn mentioned earlier, right? I mean, like for the easiest thing is the access to the corporate, because I think and that's quite crucial. Yeah, in Southeast Asia, because like in the US, you can raise fund, quite a lot of funding. You can grow the market share. Here in Southeast Asia, less capital. We need to admit that, right? And then, but at the same time, a startup gonna die if they don't have revenue. Where should be the source of revenue? The source of revenue, one is the corporate. the B2B, right? So the B2B business that they can get early on revenue. So getting the access to the corporate would help on that. Yeah, that's the first thing. The getting the access and might turn the corporate into customer, right? The second part, thinking further, because the corporate themselves also need to build the revenue and also need to lower the cost. So they might, in our case, I mean, like when we help PTT Group, which is one of the largest company in the country, and also Fortune 500 company, what they did is that they partner up with the startup, and then they utilize the solution of the startup and become distributor of the startup. So they enter into agreement, and then now they become distributor. So this is what I call, like, not only they become the client of the startup, but also they're becoming partnership, commercial agreement, right? So that's the second thing that I think corporate innovation would help set up on. The third part, when they work together, and then the startup done a very good job. So the corporate might be able to invest into the startup. So that's the third benefit, that startup might have the corporate investment arm investing in them. And later down the road, maybe after the investment, like couple years, and then the corporate see, oh, this is amazing startup, right? So they might be able to acquire startup. Okay. So that's the fourth way that we see along the journey of corporate innovation. So that's why I think the way the startup should thinking about the corporate is that, hey, you don't think about to disrupt the corporate all the way. You might need to think about partnership as well, because sometimes they're helping you not to die too soon, and be able to grow, right? So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, just one quickly before you leave this issue. How would a startup, which typically are small and don't have much money, not much capital, afford your service?
Our program is free to join for a startup. Yeah, so that's so they don't need to sacrifice their equity. They don't need to pay the money to join. So yeah, so that should be easier. But the hardest thing is that they need to be a great startup, so that they be able to accept into the program.
I see. Okay, fantastic. Moving on to you, Shawn. Maybe you can share a little bit about your past success, failure of corporate innovation.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we've been involved with this corporate innovation from, as I said, 8 years ago. Some of the top MNCs, like in a different segment of industry, like mobility, in fintech space. In mobility, Daimler has been our partner for the past 4 years. In fact, the chairman of the Daimler walked into our office in Silicon Valley. You know, he said that primarily, you know, the innovation doesn't get created in the 4 walls of our own R&D center. We basically see things as basically can disrupt us from outside of our own industries. We've been basically launching our program as an engine behind the Daimler in mobility across fintech space with multitude of these large corporations to provide them with a line of sight into the most innovative technologies across different regions. Because as an investor, we want to make sure we invest ourselves in the best technology that's going to be disruptive. So we validate and we source these companies to be able to engage them with the business units. In Stuttgart, we launched the entire programs based just for Daimler. And as of past 4 years ago, in fact, in the last batch, we run 2 batches of these acceleration programs. We source anywhere from 250 to 500 companies, and we filter heavily down to about 25 that we run acceleration programs. But during each one of those engagement, we get about 80% engagement through that connection that we make through the startups and corporations. As a result, you'll be able to do POC and commercialize. So our success rate has been amazing because the kind of a program that we built is about the result of these POCs. And so we've done in the past 4 years over, average about 100 POCs, which about 6 or 7 of those have been commercialized inside of a car that Mercedes has launched. And that's in a history of a car company is unbelievable to be, because it normally takes 5 years for something to get commercialized. Yeah.
Awesome. Kingsley, how about you? Can you share with us some of your successes and failures in corporate innovation?
Yeah, I would take the current, in Tokyo, the Olympic 2020 was coming.
Yeah.
Was going to be held in Tokyo. And so we put a lot of money into bars and clubs and things like that, hospitality area to cater to the Olympians. Unfortunately, the pandemic came and all those businesses have been put on hold. So for me, that going out of my box and going to an area where calculated risk became cancelled or disrupted by the pandemic. That has actually pulled us back a little bit, but we learned from it. And since we learned from it, the pandemic has given us other ideas to put money into and be able to recover everything we have lost from there. They are still there, but they're not operating for the past 3-4 months. And this would have been the best time for us to start making money, getting our money back. But we make the plans, but it didn't work out. So that's the what we learned from that is that you can plan whatever you want to plan. If it's not going to work out, the situation can be made different by natural disasters or pandemic like this or whatever. So if you plan well and it comes out well, you are happy. If it doesn't come out well, you learn from it.
Fantastic. Moving on to tech and digitalization. Yeah, how crucial is digitalization and tech to corporate innovation? Kun Kid.
I paraphrase your question again. So you're asking like the tech?
Yeah, technology and digitalization. How crucial is this to corporate innovation? In what you do for the companies, the startups or the corporates that you work with?
Yeah, I think we can look at it in two ways, right? So the first way, when we work with a startup, we bring the startup to help the corporate having new service, right? That's one way. Another way, it's about digitalization, digital transformation, because not only startup be able to help the corporate coming up with a new product or service, or they themselves coming up with a team, doing entrepreneur and coming up with a new product or service. But another way is to reduce the cost, right? So mainly the way to reduce the cost is through digital transformation. So optimization, predictive maintenance, or those kind of things. So either they work with a startup to achieve that, or we see that they set up the team to do that themselves as well. So these are kind of like two things that we are working on.
Okay. Shawn, you got a view on that?
Very quickly, sir. This is like, rain is to desert. Digitalization, transformation is in no time in the history of technology more relevant than now during the COVID-19 that you see how these companies and corporations who have been doing things in a very analog, very traditional ways, realizing that if they don't transform themselves into different models and they look at the things that can definitely shaping the consumer behavior in the market currently, as totally going to change the way they do business. Digitalization is at the core of every corporations, regardless of what industry. Innovation of this kind of trends is never going to stop. It's going to only continue, and it's going to only speed up. And the sooner you are aware, the sooner you just build your infrastructure to take advantage of that, the more likely you are to survive these turbulence times that's happening currently.
Absolutely. I think there's absolutely no doubt that this pandemic has accelerated the entire digital transformation process. People are moving a lot more into technology, into platforms, at speed that nobody thought would happen probably in another 5 to 10 years, all happening in the last 6 months. How's that changing things in what you do in Japan, Kingsley?
One thing that have come up with technology and digitalization is telemedicine. Up to now, people were not making use of telemedicine. But the pandemic has made it very obvious that you have to attend to other illnesses because the hospitals took over all the coronavirus patients. Normal patients could not go anywhere. So you have to resort to technology. You have to resort to using your phone, your video calls to diagnose patients, to prescribe medicine to them, discharge patients who are surgical patients, pregnant women. They have started using technology to attend to them. And this is a very new development. And since the pandemic, the whole world has changed. We are not able to work from our homes. We are not able to have this conference. Instead of me traveling to Malaysia or traveling to Dubai, I can do it from my house. Yep. So that's cutting cost. That is cutting risk. So the risk, the cost, everything is coming together through technology and digitalization. So this is very important for every sector of business, like Mr. Shawn said. Every sector of business have realized that we can work from home. We can do everything we want to do from home and being with our family.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kingsley. Gentlemen, I think our time's up. Ivan's already
yes.
I can see him making the bell.
Yeah, when I turn on my camera, then the time is over.
Yeah, absolutely enjoyed talking to you guys. And over to you, Ivan.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to have you all here. So in this panel, and thanks for joining Digital Week Online. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for setting this up. Thank you.